Welcome into the Steelers Talk Preview. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. This week, short week, Thursday night football on the road versus the Cleveland Browns. I got my keys to victory. I've got team trends. I've got a full scouting report on Jameis Winston. And, of course, at the end of today's show, I'll give my official score prediction for this week's Thursday night matchup. So make sure you guys stick around to the end of this week's preview. Before we get into it today, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button because we will be going live for our Week 12 watch party. It does start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, so make sure you join us. We had over 1,000 people join our family and click that subscribe button on our watch party or on Sunday when we played the Ravens. This week, primetime football against the Cleveland Steamers. It's going to be great, man, so make sure you click that subscribe button. And if that's not enough to get you to click that subscribe button, man, we are currently in a sub-battle this week with our frenemies here at the Browns Report, hosted by Matthew Peterson, and he hates the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now we're in the lead, 31 new subs to just 16 for the Browns, but he has been jacking up his fans over there on the Browns Report, and they are going to want to beat us because they got nothing else to fight for over there at the Browns Report. This is what Matthew Peterson had to say about the Steelers and their fans earlier today.
Kudos to the Steelers. They're having a very good season, but it's not even all that deep down. Steelers fans know another first-round playoff exit's coming.
So he's pretty, he's acknowledging there that the Steelers have a good season so far, but he's also saying, oh, yeah, you're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. Well, guess what, Pete? You're going to have to watch the Steelers win in the playoffs this year. I'm pretty sure this is going to be your reaction when they do so.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof.
Those are the weakest woofs, woofs.
Lick my balls, you.
Look at the lifeless eyes in his face right there when he has to do that. That was from last year's playoff stream when they got killed with Joe Flacco at quarterback. I'm expecting the same kind of result this weekend, Steelers versus Browns. So make sure you help us win our sub battle today by clicking that subscribe button. And new viewers, we are counting on you guys. There's a bunch of people that watch this show already subscribed. They can't help us out here. It's only new subscribers. So if you're new here, you want to help us beat the Browns Report, click that subscribe button right now. Okay, let's get into the preview here. The 8-2 Steelers will be traveling to Cleveland on a short week here after a very physical game against the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to be going up against another AFC North rival in the Cleveland Browns, currently sitting at 2-8 and coming off a 35-14 loss on the road, coming off a bye against the New Orleans Saints. Now, I will say this, guys, okay? If the Cleveland Browns are going to beat the Steelers this year, this is kind of the circumstances that they would do it, right? Short week, so there's less time to prepare. Coaching matters a little bit less in these types of matchups. Also on the short week, like I mentioned, plus Pittsburgh just played a very difficult opponent in the Baltimore Ravens, and they might be a bit gassed, all right? So if Cleveland is going to pull off an upset against the Steelers this season, it's probably going to be in this game. Now let's dive into what you guys can expect from the Browns in terms of their scheme. Kevin Stefanski, two-time Coach of the Year, even though he only has about a 500 career record with the Cleveland Browns as their head coach. The offense that they run, it's kind of a Stefanski-Dorsey hybrid where it's kind of like the classic pro spread offense and then also like the second generation of the West Coast offense. It's kind of a really weird mix, and it hasn't really worked for them this year, if I'm being completely honest, whether with Deshaun Watson or with Jameis Winston. But then on defense, they run a lot of man. They run a lot of blitz with Jim Schwartz as their defensive play caller. It was an elite defense last year. Not so much this year, but we'll talk about that later in today's show. Here are the 10 games and the results so far for the Cleveland Browns. The only teams that they have beaten are the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road in week 2, and by a slim margin, I might add. Then they somehow beat the Baltimore Ravens at home in week 8 in Jameis Winston's first game as the starting quarterback. Every other team that they have played, they have lost, including last week, coming off a bye, I might add, 35-14. So they got killed by a team like the New Orleans Saints, who just fired their head coach. That is how bad this Cleveland Browns team has been so far this year. Take a look at the injuries that they're going to be dealing with this year. Of course, Deshaun Watson is out for the season. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is dealing with a neck injury. He's going to be on IR. He will not play. Same thing with DeJuan Jones. He's going to be out. He just suffered a season-ending ankle injury. And then James Hudson III, another one of their tackles, is on IR with a shoulder. So the key offensive pieces for the Cleveland Browns: Jameis Winston is their starting quarterback. Nick Chubb, who just came back from that injury that he suffered against the Steelers last year. I believe it was on Thursday Night Football last year when Minka hit him and he was out for all the way till into this season. He's only played 3 games so far this year. Jerry Jeudy is their number 1 receiver with Amari Cooper now with the Buffalo Bills organization, and then David Njoku is a pretty nice receiving weapon over the middle at tight end. So you look at the offense for the Cleveland Browns with Jameis Winston, and he's started 3 games to this point. You take the numbers that they have had and where they would rank among the National Football League teams right now: 27th in points, 18th in points per play, 6th in yards per game, which is a little bit funky there. But then the third down and the red zone, not very good whatsoever. They have been awful in the red zone with Jameis Winston, by the way. Just 16.7 of their red zone trips have been touchdowns. I think they've only had 6 red zone trips. Only one of them ended up being a touchdown. They've given the ball up 4 times in those 3 starts. So you take a look at the team trends here with the Browns offense with Jameis Winston and where they rank versus the Steelers defense, and obviously it's no comparison, all right? The Steelers have a bona fide top 10, arguably top 5, arguably top 3 defense in the National Football League. It is an elite crew. And it just shut down the number 1 offense in the league last week in the Baltimore Ravens to just 16 points and turned the ball over 3 times. So, I mean, if they're turning the ball over 3 times against Lamar Jackson and that Ravens team, which was first in the NFL in turnovers heading into last week, versus Jameis Winston, I mean, I think that there's going to be probably some turnovers and some opportunities to do that this week. The points per game trends here: the Browns are scoring 17.6 points per game with Jameis. The Steelers are giving up 16.2 points per game throughout the season, so that would predict around 17 points for the Cleveland Browns on Thursday. Then you look at their key defensive pieces. Myles Garrett, of course, Defensive Player of the Year last year, should have been T.J. Watt, but I won't go into that one. Then Denzel Ward, their number 1 corner, very, very good in man coverage. Might be taking away George Pickens, so keep your eye on that. Dalvin Tomlinson is a very good run-stuffing defensive interior player. And then Greg Newsome is another young up-and-coming corner in their secondary as well. Having an off year after having a really good season last year, but I digress. Take a look at the team trends here with the Steelers offense with Russell Wilson versus the Browns defense. And this has been a significant step down for the Browns defense this year. 24th in points per game, 27th in yards per play allowed. The one thing that they're still doing a good job at right now is the third down defense. They get teams off the field at a top 5 rate, but they're not very good in the red zone. They don't create turnovers either. So I don't expect a lot of turnovers on the Steelers side of things. They usually protect the ball well, and the Browns don't take it away. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on here on the third down metrics, because the Steelers usually are slightly below average on third down, whereas the Browns are pretty darn good in that area. The points per game trends here predict 27.2 points for the Steelers. That's what their points per game is this year, and the Browns are giving up 24.8. So if you cross-reference those, the Steelers would score 26 points if you believe the trends, which of course would predict a 26-17 win over the Cleveland Browns. And when you're talking about averages and you're cross-referencing and all this stuff, a 9-point deficit is a lot when you talk about these trends predictions. So the trends clearly point to the Steelers being the favorite heading into this football game. And coming up here on Steelers Talk, keys to victory versus the Browns. I got 5 things the Steelers need to do to secure victory on Thursday night. Then I got a full scouting report on Jameis Winston, the starting quarterback for Cleveland, at least for now. And then we've got the Week 12 score prediction coming up at the end of the show. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you stick around to the end. And before we get into the rest of today's preview, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Also, Prize Picks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You guys can see here that the Prize Picks lineup for tonight's game between the Cowboys and the Houston Texans for us here. We took the more on rush yards for Joe Mixon, the more on field goals made for Brandon Aubrey, the more for fantasy points for C.J. Stroud, and the less for rushing and receiving yards for Rico Dowdle. If you guys want to get in on the action tonight, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly when you use code CLNS after playing your first $5 lineup on the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, run your game. So here are my weekly keys to victory. It doesn't matter who your opponent is. You want to win the line of scrimmage. You want to win on the weighty downs on both sides of the ball. Same thing in the red zone. You want to win situational football. You want to win the turnover battle. Don't beat yourself, and then make the play in the fourth quarter to seal the deal. Okay, so those things are always going to be keys for me. But now let's talk about the more specific keys to victory versus the Cleveland Browns here on Thursday Night Football. The first one is to take advantage of mistakes from Mr. Jameis Winston, because they're coming. All right, plain and simple. You just got to be ready to take advantage of them. The Steelers did a great job doing that, forcing fumbles, all this great stuff against the Baltimore Ravens. He had one interception. Those opportunities are going to be there against the Cleveland Browns, plain and simply. Take a look at my scouting report for Mr. Jameis. He is a backup quarterback, maybe bridge-level quarterback. Arm strength is good. Playmaking instincts have always been good, even going back to Florida State, and then decent pocket presence as well. He can move around, and he's got some decent playmaking chops. And then from time to time, he can play within structure, but usually the decision-making is not very good. This guy holds the record for the most interceptions in a single season, for Christ's sakes. And then also the poor footwork has always been a thing with him. And then the inconsistent accuracy is a byproduct of poor footwork. Anybody that knows quarterback mechanics would tell you that as well. He's a bottom-tier starting quarterback, in my opinion. He's got some good arm talent, but the inconsistencies are certainly there. Here are his 2024 stats. As we speak here today, a 61.4 completion percentage, just over 1,000 yards in 3 games started. He did play a little bit in another game where Deshaun went down, but then the 7 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. It's decent, but certainly not getting the job done enough for the Cleveland Browns at this point. Then we get to Mr. Chubb here, as Mike Tomlin calls him, Nick Chubb. This is going to be the first time he's played the Steelers since his injury, all right? So this is going to mean a lot to him. And I think that Cleveland is really banking on him to be kind of the game-wrecking player that he was before his injury. But if the first 3 games of his season are any indication, he is definitely not that anymore. 16 carries in that season debut against the Ravens, only 52 yards. That's not a very good average, by the way. Then it was even worse against the Chargers in Week 9 with 15 carries and 39 yards. And then because they were down for most of the game, less carries in Week 11 against the Saints. 11 carries for 50 yards. It's a little bit better. But it's certainly not at the level that he was when he was the true Mr. Chubb all those years back. So, right now the Steelers are doing a pretty good job against these rushing attacks. They did a really good job against Derrick Henry. They allowed just 1 explosive run for him on Sunday's win. And right now they're allowing just 4.1 yards per carry, which is 5th in the NFL in terms of the run defense. So I do expect the Steelers to really hone in on Mr. Chubb this weekend here, or not this weekend, on Thursday night. And I don't think he's going to be very successful in this one. We shift over to the offensive side of the ball here for the Steelers, and you got to move the chains, okay? Situational football was not good for the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Ravens. I think they were 4 of 17 on 3rd and 4th downs this past week, guys. That's not going to be good enough, okay? You need to get things going. And against a kind of bad defense like the Cleveland Browns, you expect Russell Wilson and this team to move the chains more often than they did against the Baltimore Ravens. And if they convert on 3rd down, the Cleveland Browns have shown that if you can convert 3rd downs on them, they absolutely crumble, plain and simply. They're pretty decent on 3rd down, but they're terrible at everything else. They give up big plays down the field. They give up touchdowns in the red zone. They give up a lot of points, and they don't turn the ball over. So the only thing that they can really hang their hat on right now is stopping a team on 3rd down. If the Steelers can overcome that and convert and move the chains, they're going to win this football game by quite a bit. Then another area of situational football that the Steelers need to be better in is in the red zone. Okay, right now, if you took the Steelers' red zone percentage in the games where they played the Washington Commanders and the New York Jets, they have a 7 of 10 touchdown percentage in the red zone. That's 70%. That is an excellent number from Russell Wilson and the Steelers. Okay, so that's 7 and 9. Then on the off weeks here, on 8 and 11. They're 0 for 8 in the red zone, okay? So that is just not going to get it done, and you can't go 0 for again, okay? Plain and simply. I'm going to chalk it up to 2 bad games. There's some penalties. There's some misfortune, let's call it here, for Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense in the red zone in those 2 games where they went 0 for 8 in those 2 ball games. And I'm hoping against a bad red zone defense in the Cleveland Browns, the Steelers are going to explode and get in pay dirt. Okay, final key to victory is don't beat yourselves. Now, I had this on the Sperry's Keys every single week, but I want to emphasize it this week because the Steelers are clearly the better football team, all right? And as long as you aren't committing dumb penalties, as long as you aren't turning the football over, as long as you're doing your thing on special teams and not completely doing an idiotic job on special teams, you're going to win this football game, plain and simply, guys. And because of that, I'm going to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game 27-13. And honestly, when these two teams play in Acrisure Stadium a few weeks from now, I think it's going to be even worse than 27-13. All right, I'm giving the Browns a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here because the Steelers are going to be a bit tired and fatigued after that Baltimore game that took a lot out of them, and it is on a short week. So I do think it's going to be a little bit closer here, but I mean, I have them winning by 2 touchdowns here, so that just tells you how much of a mismatch I think this matchup is. So now it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comment section. Predict the score of Steelers versus Browns for me down there in the comment section. I got 27-13. Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all of your guys' support and you guys making it to the end of today's show. We have in-depth previews like this every single week for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're also going to be going live on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, so don't miss it. Join us for the largest Steelers Talk watch parties here on YouTube, 100% free, by clicking that subscribe button right now.